Listamos. All right. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to the Blurring the Lines podcast. I am your host, Adam Bell, and joining me as always is my co-host, Peter Nikolaidis. How you doing, Peter?
You know, all in all, I'm doing very well. Despite some shall we say, routine software glitches. Today, not the one that we were just talking about before we started recording, but I added a shortcut, right? So I've found that every now and then, we've talked about on this podcast and on the other podcast that I'm a regular on, Friends with Brews, about Tailscale and VPNs. Yeah. And I really like Tailscale. However, sometimes a VPN, Tailscale included, can break things. My Sonos system is an example of that, right? Because it's essentially firewalling me off from my LAN and routing stuff out, depending on how you have things configured. Now, It's a little weird. I haven't dug into it. I conceptually, I know what's going on, right? But sometimes with Tailscale client enabled on my iPhone, I can access my Sonos systems. Sometimes with my Tailscale client enabled, I cannot. So it's like sometimes it does a split tunnel, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you feel like a nut. I don't know.
Sometimes you don't.
Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly why, but the other day I bought myself a new Sonos Move 2. That is their big portable outdoor speaker. So it's the big brother to the little Moves, right? Sorry, the Roams. So I have one of those, and I was trying to set it up, and the setup process was failing. It's pretty easy setting up. You've got Sonos equipment, right?
No.
You've got a different. I thought you had the Roam, but you have another. You have like an Amazon or a Logitech. What do you have for your Bluetooth speaker?
I have a Bose.
Bose. Sorry. Yeah. Who's ever heard of Bose?
Yeah, I know. What do they do?
Yeah. Yes. So yeah. Okay. So Bose, you have a portable. I have the Sonos Roam, and generally setting up stuff. It's like you get the app, you turn it on, and it'll say like, oh, do you want to set this up? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we'll attach it to your network. Oh, we can't find your network. Oh, you know what? There's an update available. You need to update all your other speakers. I was like, really? Now, given Sonos's recent behavior with respect to their app, which we should put a link in the show notes, compared, it was bad enough that the CEO issued a formal apology.
Oh, wow.
I think on multiple occasions. Like, it was bad. It was really, they just threw out features left and right and just, completely crapped this whole thing, which is not the first time Sonos has done stuff like that. They've done pretty stupid things that have really angered their users, myself included, in the past. So I'm like, fine, I have to upgrade my other thing to get this thing to connect to them, whatever, right? I go through, I update the firmware on all of the, 6 of my speakers running around the house. It still won't connect. And then I'm like, what's going on? I reboot my Eero router and still not working. What the heck? Wait a minute. Turn off VPN. Boom. Here's your new speaker. Everything's working fine.
Ta-da!
So I made myself a new iOS shortcut. Whenever I arrive at home, disable all my VPNs.
Okay.
All right. And then I thought to myself today, as I'm walking back, I finished my run, ran out, super hot, super humid, did 5 point some odd miles, walking the last quarter mile. I'm like, well, you know what? I should have it set so that when I leave home, I enable my Tailscale VPN. So why don't I go ahead and do that? Okay, great. So I go to shortcuts, go to automations, choose, what's the trigger? When I leave, okay, pick leaving your area. And I start typing, my street address. It auto completes my street address. I touch it. It goes back to like, okay, what area do you want to leave? I'm like, well, the one that I just tapped and selected. So I go back, I select it again, and it's got my address, my home address. It has a little check mark next to it, seeing that I have actually tapped it. I click OK, save, and it says choose location. Like, no matter what I do, whatever I type into this field, I cannot get it to save the location. So I can't auto enable my VPN anytime I leave home. So I'll try rebooting my phone and see if that works, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet.
So your local node doesn't work. So allow local network access. That doesn't work on your phone on
that,
Tailscale.
do I have that checked? Let me see. Clicking on check.
So you go to the exit node, allow local access.
That is selected.
Hmm.
Yep. For various values of allow, I guess. Yeah. So it's quantum allow, you know. It's allowed and it's not allowed at the same time. So what have you been up to, my friend?
Oh, just the regular stuff. Oh, before we leave the Tailscale, do you know there are some supported routers that you can actually put the Tailscale to run on them, and then everything in your LAN is behind your Tailscale, so your LAN would then just be safe.
You mean something like the GLI iNet AX1800 wireless router like this?
Is that one of them?
This is one. I guess we didn't talk about that on this podcast, but we have this extensively on Friends with Brews, because this is my Germany router.
Okay.
But it looks like I'm in Boston.
No, well, and I have to say, you're growing the hair right now.
Yeah, you know what inspired this? I looked at pictures of myself during my first marathon, and I had quite the beard going on for me. Quite the beard for me, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, that was fun. Let's do that again. I admit I'm a lot grayer than I was.
Yeah. See, I can't grow a beard. I can grow a fair goatee. And then I could grow a nice Amish beard, where it's like under the neck, and that's it. I can do one of those. But no, I can't grow a proper beard.
Long and low.
Yeah, long and low. I'm not gonna go with that one.
Yeah, I don't think so. For me, the thing was, like, I could always grow a beard. I was just never patient enough to do it. It just takes me too long. And the other part is that it goes, mine, it's very sporadic. It's very tufty, so it's, it grows faster in certain parts than other parts. So I'm at the point where I need to start like trimming back a little bit in, some of the
certain areas, yeah.
So it evens out. And I am getting a haircut today, but I don't think I quite have enough to designate this, to delegate this over to a barber.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's going to do him, do my semi-customized high and tight, not so high, but just as tight.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe next time, maybe next month or so, I'll see if if he's ready to tackle the beard.
The other thing, I feel like there's hair on my face.
Well, there is.
I can't say that I like it.
I don't get the feeling like it. There have been a couple of times. So I do keep the mustache trimmed very close, right? Because I don't like chewing on hair, and I don't like, so I keep that tight. But
I've got one special hair that, like, right in one of the corners in the corner of my mouth, that it just happens to grow like exactly in. So you'd be like, dang it, I gotta go.
I have, here we are. Men of a certain age have these problems, right? And I definitely have like certain hairs. Like I've got like one eyebrow, one eyebrow hair that grows at a completely different angle than all the others. Like I pluck that thing out, it grows back the same every time. I'm like, how the heck? Can I just get rid of this one? Anyway.
Well, in all fairness, that the hair that bothers me, I've had it my whole life, so at least it's not an old age thing. Now there is hair on my ears that was never there before.
Yes. Ear hair is a thing. So far, they're still like individuals, so I can like pluck them out. But I do have I've got that attachment where I can just like shove it right in your ear, and clean it all out and go.
Because I'll see in the sunlight sometimes, like, how the heck did I miss that? That's got to be like 3 inches long. I mean, boink.
I've noticed too in the sunlight, I look a lot grayer than I do. It really brings out the luminescent value to the phrase.
Oh. Oh, cool. So the
That was depressing. Can we talk about something
yeah,
else?
let's talk about something fun.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
weeks ago, probably a couple months ago, I talked about I was running Ubuntu again, and I got to the point where like I need a Windows box. I need to be able to do some specific things that I can't do, and here we go back again.
Yep.
One of them was I was actually doing some Excel spreadsheet stuff that I needed to be able to run proper formulas in Excel, and online wasn't it wouldn't cut it for me,
Excel Online is so hit or miss. I mean, it
Yeah.
can be so awesome and so disappointing at the same time. The
Hmm.
only thing that's worse is Excel on the iPad.
Yeah.
That's just disappointing.
Yeah. I've had really good luck with Sheets. I mean, Google
Yeah,
Sheets.
because it's cloud native. It's been on, it never was a desktop port, right?
Hmm. Yeah. But what I was doing was it was actually fun. One of my colleagues, he wrote this Power or Excel query, and I was actually really impressed because I have no concept of I'm not a programmer, and I'm not a data admin programmer, who's writing these things. So we take 3 spreadsheets because one of the common tasks that we deal with is computers that have security software installed on them, and the volume of security software doesn't match with the actual computers out there. So if you have 100 computers and you're charging the client for 100 computers plus 95 of the security stack 1, 97 of security stack 2, the client is smart enough to know, hey, I've got computers out there that don't have security software on it, at least according to these numbers,
Because I can math.
because I can math. Well, so then the account management team needs to figure out which computers don't have the appropriate software so that they can get it deployed. But you can't just tell the ops team, hey, I've got 100 computers and 3 of them don't have whatever. You've got to tell them which 3 to don't have whatever.
Yep.
So taking those 3 spreadsheets and then comparing them and then spitting out a result of which 3 computers are missing security software A. Like, fantastic. This is excellent. So
There we go.
that's fun. That's fun with spreadsheets.
Fun with spreadsheets. I learned a new use for pivot tables a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was now, but it wasn't.
It was awesome.
What was I trying to? Oh, I was helping a friend. Friend of mine recently got promoted to manager,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the classic example. Like he was a good practitioner, so now we're gonna, elevate you to manager. And I'm like, okay, dude, this is a mind shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just do more,
Mm-hmm.
practitioner stuff, right? You need to manage, so let's talk about this, because since you're a manager now, you're not going to have time to, you were an FTE devoted to sysadmin and end user support. So how much time do you spend doing all of those? He has no idea. Like, okay, so the first thing you got to do is track your time.
Quantify.
And quantify what you're doing, so we have an idea, right? And so I told him, like, here's how I had to show him, because he was like, okay, I'll do it in Excel, but it was a classic, like, I'm using Excel as a notepad, right? And I was like, okay, you have to break them down by hour and by category so we can see. And so I showed him how to structure it and stuff. Like, okay, that's fine. I didn't even realize that a pivot table is a perfect way to just take like 3 columns: date, description, activity type, and duration, 4 columns, right? Or date, activity type, duration. So, Friday the 13th, 1 hour system administration, Friday the 13th, 1 hour timesheet entries, Friday the 13th, half an hour end user support. Pivot table is a great way to just take all that and make a chart out of it, graph it. So, because it will do the analysis and automatically sum up all of the hour, sysadmin, end user support, admin time, etc., and make a pie chart out of that. And I was like, I did not know that. Like, that's pretty cool. So yet another Win for pivot tables.
Then back to my Ubuntu. One of the things that I was like, okay, I've got the Ubuntu. I like it. I was running on an underpowered HP.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, I've got this, higher powered. It's actually an Alienware workstation that's like 7 years old. It and the processor, Windows 11 won't run on it, but it's an i7 with 32 gig of RAM and like solid state everything. It's like, oh, this is perfect for Ubuntu. So I reinstall Ubuntu on it. I follow this, the same process that I did to build my HP, and things don't work. So the first install doesn't work. So I'm okay, that's fine. I'll just reinstall it. Second install, I do the same process. It works just fine. I cannot get Screen Connect to auto run the file. I got it to work on the HP just fine. So I click on a computer, and now I have to download the Java JNPL and then manually run that every time I want to connect to a computer.
Yeah.
I'm like, it just worked. And I pulled up my HP, and Screen Connected just magically works. And that's one of the things that's frustrating about Ubuntu, is that I can do this same process and it works one time and then it doesn't work. And if I wipe it, reload it, do it again, the same thing, it does work. And I was like, then I was like, I wanted to run dual monitor RDP. So I created a Windows virtual machine, because I like, every once in a while there's these things like the spreadsheet. I had to run it in Windows. So I was like, okay, I'll just have a little VM. Well, I could only get it to do single monitor. I couldn't get it to run remote desktop dual monitor. My Mac does it, no problem. It doesn't care. It just works fine. So I was like, you know what? I've got work to do. Expletive here. I'm out.
Yep. And that's the thing. Is like, how hard would it be for Screen Connect to just do a complete in the browser, an HTML5 version? But they've got
used to.
Well, right, but it was Java, right?
Yeah.
Like okay, guys, Connect wise, it's 2025. Can we stop using Java? Yeah, apparently not.
Yeah, because I couldn't even use actual Java in Ubuntu. I used ICE-T. Is that the right?
I don't even remember, but it's
a
port.
Yeah.
An open source, because they open sourced it, an open source port. Yeah.
Yeah, and that worked. So good times. But I like Ubuntu. I really, I just don't have enough margin in my life for an operating system that I can't rely on. My Mac is solid. It's just so solid. I never have, it just works.
Yep.
My Windows computer really just works, as long as, one of the things that's frustrating is getting Windows updates.
Yep.
Those are those are the things that make it, wonky. But I understand it's insecure. I mean, like, it's a hassle.
Yep.
But that's why I'm like, I think if I fully landed on a platform, it'd probably be on a Mac, but I've still got this Windows. As long as I'm in the business world, it's necessary evil.
Yep. I've been on Macs now. It's been a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for me, it's been good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been fine, because all the the technical hacker tools support Mac or Linux, or are portable over there now. And it's not like I'm running, I need the Windows versions of whatever. The only thing I miss, and I don't really use that as much these days, I don't remember the last time I did, is Visio for the app for Windows.
Yeah.
But there's Visio Online, so if I need that, I just get a web app version. And Lucid Chart, I guess that's a pretty decent alternative. Freeform is what I generally use, because it's usually just like a flow chart. My days of drawing network diagrams seem to be not.
Yeah.
They're not now.
Yeah. I did an online Visio diagram recently, and it was a flow chart. It was, there happened to be computers and things from time to time, but it was mainly a flow chart. But the thing that was infuriating to me was, I worked a sheet, And wherever you moved things around or spread things around, the sheet became that much bigger. And there was no way to compress it down to like shrink to just where the objects are. They're like, oh no, you were up here. So this sheet is now, way bigger. So what I had to do once I got everything the way that I wanted it, I created new tabs and copied and pasted the content from the original tab to the new tab, and it shrunk all the space. But you better not mess with it.
Don't replace my spaces with tabs, right?
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that's Ubuntu's gone, but I still like it. I still like it better than Mint too. I tried Mint at the same time, but Mint felt too much to me like old Windows. I'm over Windows 7. I mean, I'm gone. I mean, I've moved on.
Yeah, well, 7, yeah. I mean, 10 is old news at this point.
Well, I know, but the feel was really of Mint was really 7/10 kind of a combined of Windows driven. Like I am not driving down into folders anymore. I stopped digging into folders for executables a long time. I search for everything. I don't run anything. I mean, even in Mac,
Mm-hmm.
I hit the launch pad and I start typing what I want to do. There's no icon for that.
Yeah, I try to keep everything very well organized, but I end up searching for things all the time. And the big thing for me is I have stuff essentially in 2 repositories. It's either in OneDrive or it's in iCloud Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't yet synchronized those 2. But one thing I did do, I don't even know if I do this anymore. I, for a while, had a script running like every hour to take whatever was in the downloads folder. I think I still do this. Anything that's in my like users Peter or whatever my home directory downloads folder is on my Mac, once per hour, that gets moved into my OneDrive downloads folder. Right. And then I think I aliased one to the other. So like my iCloud downloads, or then I don't remember, but I try to put it all in one place. Because I have a launcher. I use Raycast as my launcher. And, I'll type downloads. Okay, I'll search files. And now I find downloads 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 downloads folders to choose from. One's in OneDrive. One's in iCloud Drive. One's in an old Google Takeout archive of mine from my email. And one's in another personal archive of stuff, so it's one of the top 2, right? But what I find is like especially around tax season, when I'm scanning things left and right, I just do all that in iCloud Drive because it's so much more readily available. OneDrive sometimes takes time. It can take minutes before it realizes that there's something there. Then it takes minutes to upload it. Then it'll take more minutes to download it to the machine that I'm waiting on. Whereas iCloud, it's just like, yep, there it is. And it's kind of funny. It's a little surprising that, that Apple's better at the cloud than somebody. But then again, it's just Microsoft. So I guess,
Yeah.
Anyway.
So cool. So what's new in AI? Anything new that you're excited about, or?
Claude 4 is out. Am I excited about it? Not really. Haven't been working, haven't really done much. Honestly, I've been using more like embedded AI in some tools rather than, I don't spend as much chatting with like a GPT or, chatbots as much as I was a while ago. Probably just because my work these days is just a lot more customer facing, like face-to-face customer stuff. So I'm not doing as much like, like writing policies or proofread this policy or, stuff like that. But, I'm using Warp, like the Warp terminal has been my default since Scott told me about it sometime last year. And they've got AI built in with, a number of free credits. And so the other day I realized I was on a machine that I hadn't used in a while, one of my Vermont workstations. And natively, like Warp is my default terminal. I still use the Bash shell by default. Maybe it's a Z shell now on Mac if they've changed it. I forgot. But then I aliased a couple of common tools. So like cat, for instance, I replaced with bat. It's just a better cat. And I replaced ls with lsd. So and I was like, okay, I tried to, I tried to do like, apt install bat, and it's like, no, not found, right? And install ls, and I was like, wait, you know what? I'm using the I'm using Warp here. I was like, I want to install bat and replace cat with that, and I want to install lsd and replace ls with that. Can you do that? And it suggested the packages, and then it was thoughtful enough to put it into my bash rc file and source my bash rc file. Nice. So it didn't just, because I thought it was going to maybe just like, okay, I will alias cat equals bat, right? And then be done. And then of course, the next time I log off and log on, it loses all of that. No, it did it the right way. It's like, nope, I'm going to put it into Peter's profile, and I'm going to source that right now just to make sure it works. So, cool. That was a nice little quality of life, just because I just couldn't remember like the package name, apparently. Apparently it's called Batcat. Batcat. Not to be confused with Batman, Catwoman, etc. Batcat.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I haven't found anything that I just love about AI. I mean, there's things that you can do, but it's still really, I'm feeding a extremely good search engine. I'm telling something to do it, and it is saving me time, and I am enjoying that. I forget what I was doing some research on something, and it got done and offered, hey, I can put together a task list for this as a downloadable PDF or Word document if you'd like. I'm like, oh, that's actually kind of handy. Yeah, go for it. Yeah. So
we're getting some useful stuff, right? It's just a lot of it is garbage. Apple has completely dropped the ball on their attempt. It's like,
yeah. Well, you can make I tried to create. I don't do anything with Apple's intelligence because I think it's stupid. I can't make phone calls anymore. I mean, I know I can't just say, hey, your Siri, call Peter the Greek, and if I do that in Apple Intelligence, it doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
But if I do it in Siri, which that's the
so tell me, how do you distinguish between that? Because I don't know. I just I enabled Apple Intelligence. I disabled it for a while, and then I don't remember. I either enabled it again or it came back after a software update, I think. But I have it right now, and in general, I like when it gives me summarization. I have one friend who notoriously will send 14 messages in a row. Right now, I have 16 unread messages in messages, and 12 of them are for one individual.
Yeah.
Right. So I can get a summary of those, and sometimes that's really cool. But I am one of those people who has had the occasion where Apple has told me literally the exact opposite of the gist of the message.
Do you need me to pick you up at 7? No. They answered yes.
Yes. No need to pick up at 7, right?
Yeah. No, I have all that. I have Apple Intelligence turned off because of those. I can't stand a text message to be summarized for me. My oldest daughter does send very long text messages, and she sends them in dinging succession. She'll do a sentence and sentence, and you got 5 of them. You're like, why didn't you just keep typing on one place there? But I've misinterpreted things where it interpreted it for me, and I gave back the wrong response to the person who was texting me, and I was like, you're gone. I don't need summaries. I mean, they're short enough already, so don't summarize.
Yeah, I guess my personal preference for long format texts, is at least put a little bit of space in between. I'm texting my godson, now he's expressed again an interest in cybersecurity. So I've been quizzing him things. Oh, let me give you a few things to look into. Here, go check this out. Do this,
Mhm.
this. And he comes back with a giant one wall of text, and I'm like, I
Dude.
literally have to schedule some time to sit down and parse
read.
this now. It's like,
Yeah, my brain can't just flip it and send it back to you. I got to pay attention here.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I had a fun thing. It's really kind of a business. It was with QuickBooks, but it actually wasn't a QuickBooks problem. I was looking at getting rid of QuickBooks because of some business changes, and I didn't need QuickBooks Online. I moved to Zero because I could have multiple companies in Zero cheaper than what I was paying for one company in QuickBooks.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know what you're doing, but you're getting charged way more than I was. I was only getting charged $38 per month for QuickBooks Online.
Yep.
Plus a $19.95 charge for Intuit. So I was paying roughly $50 a month.
And I was paying more like $65 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So
I canceled everything. I canceled my Intuit, QuickBooks Online. It canceled May 16th. Well, I got a charge on May 30th, which is today, for $19.95. QuickBooks. So I was like, okay, no harm, no foul. So I go out to QuickBooks' or Intuit's website, and they say, I've got a charge that I don't recognize. They say, put it in, account number, amount, date, and it doesn't have the date, no charge found. I'm like, okay, well, let me do last month's because maybe it's in a pending state. It hasn't completed. No charge found. All right, well, I'm calling my bank. So I call my bank. I say, hey, I need to dispute this. I've contacted Intuit. They say they're not charging me for it. And I believe that they don't think that they're charging me for it, even though that they are. So we're just going to dispute it and, fix the glitch. We're going to stop paying them. We're going to fix the glitch.
Yep. Which is good.
So Regions Bank tells me, this charge for $19.95, that's not being charged by QuickBooks. That's being charged by us to allow you to do direct interface with QuickBooks.
Oh.
I said, well, helpful. They said, well, how long have you use QuickBooks Desktop? I said, no, I use QuickBooks Online. Well, this is what interfaces with QuickBooks Desktop. I said, how long you been on QuickBooks Online? Like 4 years. Yeah, years. But I've been paying this $19.95 since 2008 when I signed up for using QuickBooks. So for 4 years I've been paying $240, a year extra for something I didn't need. I'm like, you know what? My next company, I'm just going to, every 5 years, I'm canceling the checking account, just canceling it. And then starting a new checking account. And if things need to get paid that should be paid, they'll find me. And the things that don't need to get paid are going to get cut out.
That's one way to do it. You could also just review all of your recurring transactions from time to time, but that sounds like work.
Well, I actually did. I knew this existed because it says QuickBooks. And I knew that I was paying QuickBooks. I was paying them every month too. So I figured that there were 2 separate charges for 2 separate services that I was paying for. But when I canceled, then everything would cancel out.
Right.
So that's what I thought. But that's what, it wasn't because I didn't know it existed. I just didn't know that it was, not being charged by Intuit, even though it says QuickBooks. But so shame on me. But like, oh well. So, and of course they charged me for May. I'm like, well, I didn't use it. They're like, well, we won't charge you for June. You've only been getting free money for 4 years on this. Come on now.
That's awful nice of them. Yeah, that's a thing, you know, like recurring charge disputes and stuff is a thing, and recurring charges is just, it's a great way to rip people off.
Mm-hmm.
I had that going on. I paid to have a monthly subscription to a car wash, and it was once per day, unlimited, you know, up to 30 washes a week, basically.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that, and it was fine. And I found out at one point they had a problem. They tried to move to a new payment system, which was buggy as hell. And the day that I was trying to use that first time, they weren't able to charge my card correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So they did it manually, and they ended up double charging me.
Oops.
And then they ended up double monthly charging me,
Brilliant.
which I didn't discover for like 6 months. And they're like, well, our policy is we'll refund you for like the last 2 months. I was like, okay, I want all 4 months though. I want all 6 months. I want the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, our policy is that we'll give you the last 2. Is that okay? I'm like, no, that's not okay. I want all my money that you've been stealing.
Yeah.
And I contacted the state attorney general's office, and they routed me to like some consumer advocate group who has no power to do anything.
Yeah.
So I got screwed out of like 6 months of, you know, of
double pay.
No car wash. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's their policy to screw your customers, so it's okay. So
yeah. So good times.
yeah, it's great. Wonderful. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Thanks. All right. Well, so a couple weekends ago, we haven't talked since then. I went skydiving.
I did check on your Find My location just to make sure that at least your phone had made it home.
Yeah, I kept moving. No, so I went skydiving with my mother, who's 70. Well, actually, she's not 70 yet. She's almost 70, and my daughter, 24. So we all went. We all survived. It was I really enjoyed it.
Wife didn't feel like going along?
No, she wasn't happy about us going either. She said I was stupid.
Stupid.
But I really enjoyed it. I would do it again. The experience was so the thing that I was really I wasn't expecting this. So I was expecting to, when I jump out of the plane, you know, of course I know I'm tethered to somebody. I mean, so I knew that. So I was expecting to jump out of the plane and feel like I was falling, and you know, get that whole sensation that you get, you know, when if you've ever been on a roller coaster, how you lose your stomach, you know, that. I was expecting that, and I was actually looking forward to it, because I knew that I would experience this sensation, but it would be in a safe way. You know, I'm not going to, because if I were falling out of the plane, I'm like, I got to experience that, but now I'm gonna die, you know, so I don't want to do that. But we hopped out of the plane, and there was it for a split second, you know, when we actually hopped out, that you lost your stomach.
Yep.
And we flipped over, and you could look up and see the bottom of the plane, and that was really cool.
Yep.
And then we flipped back down to where facing the ground, and the wind is hitting you at 120 miles an hour. I mean, you've seen the videos where people, like, their faces are flapping and their arms are flapping, and you know, it doesn't. Yeah. It is not a pleasant sensation.
I would not expect it to be pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, it was 120 mile an hour wind blowing in your face, and it actually, because I didn't, you know, I was experiencing this for the first time. I wasn't working on my technique. I was working on, you know, just not causing any problems.
Staying alive.
So I had my head in a way that the wind was really forcing its ramming air right up my nose, which is then ramming in my throat, which then makes it difficult to breathe.
Yes.
So I'm like really struggling to breathe, and now I know, in hindsight, I would have positioned my head in a different way to where my nose is more protect the holes of my nose and it runs up further past. And I know that now, hindsight, of course. So that, and we got out there and we moved around, it's like, move your arms this way to make us do this and do that, and that was cool. But the best part was when we actually went under canopy, because when we did that, all the wind stopped. I mean,
oh yeah,
and we were floating there, and he let me control the parachute. So he showed me, pull one up, pull one down, and you spin, and and it's lazy loops, and we were going to our destination. We were landing back at the airport, and so that was really cool. And there's even if you go into the wind, you more or less hover. You're not going up or down anymore, because it's just sustaining you. Yeah.
The Bernoulli effect in full effect.
Yeah. And that was awesome. So I really enjoyed that. If I did it, well, I really would like to do it again. And I'd like to jump one more time without a helmet, because I would want to figure out what head position I put my head in to where I'm not getting that ram air.
You also just put a mask on?
Well, you could put a mask on, but you can also do, like, there are skydiving helmets that are kind of like a motorcycle helmet, but they've got like a full shield, face shield. So you wouldn't experience any of that at all. You would just breathe naturally. But you can't do that in tandem, because it's a danger to the instructor. Because if you're, I'm right here in front of him, and if I pull my head back and bash his nose, that's a bad problem. Now, if we could potentially both wear helmets, and that would prevent that from happening, but it's not a general practice to tandem. He had a helmet on, but it's not the general practice for the jumper.
Got it.
To have a helmet. But yeah, maybe a mask. I don't know how having a fiber, like a do-rag or anything like that. I don't know if that would be like close to waterboarding you.
I don't know if that would make enough of a difference or not. I think it would cut.
I mean, I think it would cut down, but it may be such force that it may not help.
Yeah.
But like I said, I really enjoyed it, and I was not disappointed. I was slightly disappointed, because what I thought would be the best part of it would be the free fall, and really the best part of it was under canopy. But there was no part of it that I didn't like enjoy. You do the I did. I would have. You've been in a rappelling girdle, or whatever you call it, where the straps, if you've climbed a wall or whatever, it's got the straps, and then you pull them real tight, up against your junk. But if you pull them too tight, it's too tight on your manhood there. But if you also have them too far away, the further up your thigh, it actually is pulling on the skin on your thigh. So it needs to be at the place where it's neutral, so it's not pulling or pushing.
Right.
And I had one of my harness, that's the word I was looking for. One of my right leg, my harness was just a bit up my thigh, and it was kind of putting pressure on the, straining. I felt like I was going to have like a rug burn there.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't, but
okay, good.
yeah, it wasn't, but I was like, next time I need to make sure I get it exactly in the neutral place where it's not my junk, not my thigh.
Good call.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But it was good. It was a beautiful day. You could see everything from up there. We went up to 14,500 feet.
A few miles up, almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2.5 or so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you ready to go now?
I'm totally ready.
Ready? All right.
The closest I ever got to that was parasailing and paragliding in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And that was fun, but it's got me thinking. I was like, I wonder which is more dangerous, like going up and getting, jumping out of a plane or getting towed behind a pickup truck or getting towed behind a speedboat. It's like,
I bet I would think the airplane would be safer.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I bet the numbers don't match because a lot more people will do the paragliding than will jump out of a plane.
Yeah. Well, it's a much lower barrier to entry, figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
Yeah.
that was some good time too. That was Costa Rica was fun. I'm feeling like I've been bitten by that travel bug again and want to go again soon. So
yeah.
But hey, on that note, we got to wrap things up because I got another call in a few minutes. So
Okay.
shall I take us out?
Take us out.
All right. Well, listener, if you want to find us, you, as I always say, already have, but you can find more of us at blurringthelinespodcast.com. Our contact us information is there. There's a spam form that you can, there's a contact form that you can fill out, which generally just sends junk to us, but hey, what are you going to do? You can find Brian. You can call Adam on the socials. You can find Brian on the socials. You might even find me on the socials. I don't know. We're all there. And with that, I've got, I don't know what the hell. Yeah, I need more caffeine, I think. So, but before I go get that, I'm going to push the big red button.
Big red button. All right.
I was on a phone call with the sales rep, Brian, and he text message, you on the meeting? I'm like, yeah, I'm coming. I've got 4 minutes, dude. Give me a minute.
Yeah. All right. So, transcript stop. Record. Stop recording.